Hey, so let me show you something. You see, if I pull on my shirt here, you can see how it pulls in all different directions. Well, this is similar to the connective tissue, the covering around all your muscles, all your tendons, ligaments, every cell of your body. So when there's a tightness in one area or a shortening of the fascia, the connective tissue, they're not separate pieces. It's all one piece that is one continuous web throughout your whole body from head to toe. And if you pull or you have a tightness in one place, it pulls everywhere else. That's why the health of this tissue is not just about whether you feel tight, it's largely what the entire physical health of your body depends on long term. The health of this connective tissue, fascia, determines how resilient you are to injury, whether your joints hold up or wear down early. I'm Angelo dela Cruz, and you're going to learn something that's quietly affecting your long-term physical health right now, whether you feel a symptom from it or not. Fascia wraps every muscle, every organ, every joint in your body. And like I mentioned before, it's one continuous web. It wraps around every single cell of your body. It's built to glide and layers sliding against each other so you can reach and rotate and turn without anything catching. When that glide is lost, two things are happening, and neither one is complicated once you picture it. First, some fibers that are supposed to slide relative to each other start sticking together. And think of it like two pieces of tape pressed together, stuck, not peeling apart cleanly. That stuck spot is what we call a fascial adhesion. Second, the gel that fibers normally float around gets thicker in those areas, and it goes from something slippery, almost like olive oil, to something more like honey that's been sitting in the fridge. And tissue sitting in that thicker goo resists movement everywhere, not just one direction. And here's why the timing of it matters. Early on, that thickened stage is like clay that's still wet, stiffer but workable, and it loosens back up if you keep moving. Leave it long enough though, and it's more like clay that's already been baked hard in a kiln. A real change that's much harder to undo. That's why when you have a regular deep tissue session, it never quite gets the whole thing. However, it's important you keep moving after any massage session because that's what keeps it soft instead of letting it harden back into the same shape. Here's the part that explains everything else in this video. Fascia is built to move in more than one direction at once, not just stretch out straight the way a rubber band does. Your shoulder doesn't just bend and straighten, it twists, it swings out to the side, it reaches across at an angle, all in one motion. So those stuck spots build up in all of those directions too. A static stretch pulls in basically just one direction. It can't reach a stuck spot sitting in a direction the stretch never travels through. So it's the same as when I showed you pulling on my shirt. One way never fixes the bunching happening somewhere else on the fabric. And this is something I see constantly. Clients who exercise regularly, who've done physical therapy, chiropractic care, who stretch and foam roll consistently, and they still come to me because none of it held the way they had hoped. It's definitely not a lack of effort. Static stretching and foam rolling and general massage, they all share the same limitation, but they work in one direction, repeated the same way session after session. That's not the wrong way to do it. It helps with blood flow. It can calm down your body's automatic tensing up reflex, the same one that makes you flinch. And it feels like progress, but stuck spots that formed in more than one direction need to be loosened in those same directions. A straight line stretch repeated the same way every time simply can't undo something that isn't a straight line problem. The tissue you're trying to release was never designed to move in just that one direction. So releasing it in just that one direction was never going to be the whole answer. So here's the shift we can make. Releasing tight fascia in a way that actually lasts means working it from different angles, not one line repeated. This is what lets those stuck spots throughout the tissue actually let go, so fascia can glide in every direction it's built to move in. But release is only half of it. Fascia doesn't stay in its new, freer state just because it was worked on. Your body needs a reason to keep using that new range of motion. Otherwise, it can drift back toward the pattern it knows, simply because that pattern is familiar. That's why lasting fascial health depends on two things together: hands-on release across multiple planes, and movement or corrective exercise afterward that actually uses that range of motion you just gained. And this is what I want you to remember from this whole video. The physical health of your body is largely dependent on the health of your fascia, its suppleness, its integrity. That's what makes you more resilient to injury and keeps your joints from wearing down prematurely. This isn't a tightness problem, it's a long-term health issue. In practice, this doesn't look like one long stretch held for 2 minutes. It looks like changing your position, spreading tissue in different directions by hand, moving the joint itself through different planes while I'm working the tissue underneath, rotating a shoulder through its own arc while addressing the fascia around it, instead of just pulling on it from one position. That combination is deliberate. Moving the joint through its natural planes while working the tissue lets fascia release in the actual directions it is designed to move through. And one more thing worth knowing, some of what feels tight isn't the tissue itself being short. Sometimes your body is just protecting the area on purpose. The same automatic guarding your hand does right before you touch something you think might be hot. That protective tension can feel exactly like a real stuck spot under my hands, but it doesn't loosen the same way force does on a genuine one. Good work tells the two apart and works with the body's defense instead of fighting it, which is part of why this isn't about a hard pressure massage. So after you get any massage, depending on what was released or worked on, that usually means specific corrective exercises or movement patterns to put the new range to use. So your nervous system starts treating that range as the new normal instead of something to drift away from. The goal was never just to release and relax the muscle. It's tissue that moves the way it's built in every plane, not just the one you've been stretching. For most people, that means reaching and rotating through a mental note of where it'll catch. It also means the exercise you're already doing has room to actually work. If fascia around a joint is restricted, that joint has a hard ceiling. You can strengthen a muscle right up to the ceiling and never past it. Release the restriction, and the same exercise finally produces better progress instead of plateauing. And long term, this is what protects you: a body that holds onto range because it's using it, and joints that aren't grinding against tissue that never learned to glide again. Think of it less as toughness and more like a rope that can hold more weight before it frays. That's really all load tolerance means: how much your tissue can handle before something gives out. The sudden reach, the awkward step, the heavier lift, that's the resilience piece. Research reviews on myofascial release methods back this up. Targeted, multi-directional, hands-on work produces measurable tissue change that a generic stretch doesn't do. If you've been stretching faithfully and you're still tight in the same places, your tissue isn't failing to respond to effort. It's responding exactly the way fascia responds to a single direction input, partially and temporarily. An assessment with someone who works across multiple planes of movement, not just one stretch repeatedly, can find exactly where your fascia has lost its glide and in which direction it needs to be moved. If you want to talk through what's going on in your body, the link to book a conversation with me is in the description. I'm Angelo. This has been Fit Body Therapy here in Los Altos, and I'll see you on the next one.